Hi, today we're going to talk about guerrilla marketing and what that means in the aspect of brainstorming. Brainstorming in two areas, brainstorming for your clientele and who is your clientele and marketing to your clientele. And the second one is brainstorming in how to market to your clientele. So when we talk about the idea of brainstorming, we're really talking about one person or a group of 20 people or more. I don't know that you'd want to do much more than that, but getting together and throwing down ideas. And it can be on a topic that you're trying to address, like marketing to your clients, and you're throwing down a lot of ideas. Now, basically, what that means is there's really not a bad or terrible idea. However, you do want to kind of pinpoint it as to what you're trying to achieve. So if you were to write on a big board or a chalkboard or a dry eraser board, um, let's brainstorm. If you talk to your team, maybe you have 5 people on your team, for example. Let's brainstorm as to who our clients are. Let's target market our or bring up a market of who our clients are and who our target is. So let's take a look at my company, David's Kitchen Design in Arizona. And first of all, I have about 3 or 4 categories. So one of them would be local business. The other one would be, and that's in Arizona, doing cabinets and kitchen design for everyone in Arizona. My customers would be homeowners, your average couple, your average person looking for a kitchen. Mine would, and that's kind of like a retail thing. A lot of people are doing their own remodels, a DIY person building their own home, etc. My other clients would be contractors. My other clients would be kitchen companies, for just design, possibly. So you look at all these aspects and you break them down and write them on your bulletin board. And then what you're going to do is say, okay, that's great ideas and so on, but how do we target these people? So again, back to my company, I have a local market, I have a nationwide market, and I also have a really a worldwide market because I've sold 300 and like 28 classes or 30 all over the world on kitchen design and so on. And so basically, and selling homes and people's selling kitchens, I should say, in a 1 to 2 hour appointment in people's homes. I only have 2 classes online. One is 5.5 hours, the other one's a couple hours. And so anyway, that's my market. So I kind of have a local thing, international thing, and then nationwide thing. So I think I could so I teach employees. I have an on-the-job training program for kitchen design and um, for learning 2020 and sales and so on, sales techniques. I also have a design service that I just design kitchens for people. I also have I can hire installers. I can do consulting in many areas of kitchen design and sales and starting kitchen companies and so on. So I kind of diversify into a lot of different areas and I kind of market them each differently. Let me give you an example of that. So I use Facebook quite a bit. I use Facebook nationwide for companies. I've even gone international on Facebook thinking they'll buy my course. I don't know how convenient or possible it would be to train somebody overseas or something like that. I guess you can use WhatsApp. You can even use Zoom probably, I think, for people overseas. But that being said, is let's take a look at that. So if we, I'm sorry, I probably got a cup that looks to be ridiculous, but I get thirsty from time to time and have to take a drink, or otherwise my voice will go. Okay, so let's take a look at first of all, you're gonna sit down and kind of spell out what categories your company is in. And this can be very, um, you need to bring out the best thoughts in you as to markets and areas that your company serves. Okay. Now we're all about serving others. That's why we exist. Um, because you're helping others solve a problem and you have an opportunity to help them to solve a problem. That's why we exist. So you got to think, okay, what problem am I solving for them? For example, say you're an air conditioning company. Well, in the middle of summer when it's 120 degrees, you're solving a problem for them. You're also solving, of course, maintenance in the winter and possible heating problems. So basically, you want to kind of define all the areas that you can help people in, and then that kind of determines the market and who your market is too. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so I mean, we can look at plumbing. Say what services can we offer? Well, first of all, if you look at my kitchens that I do, um, people always have to have a plumber hook up their sink afterward or their sinks. Like say I do two bathrooms and I do a kitchen and they want to put a faucet in and hook all that up. A countertop guy usually does the sink, but they need the fixtures or the faucets and things like that on the sink. So there's a market that maybe you never discovered if you're a plumbing company. Is someone like myself that needs continual people to go out and service my people for the plumbing. So I can give your name out to these people. Maybe you charge $700 or something like that. I'm just using that because that's what's kind of been in the past to hook up somebody's sink. So, you got to think about all the possibilities that are out there for your company. And it might be a new market for you. But say you got, I don't know, 100 people in the next year that need their sink hooked up that you never realized that was an area. So either you or your guy go out there and hook a sink up and it's a day job or it's a half a day or 2 hours. I don't know. It could be all of those. But say you make $700, right, in one day. Take a look at excuse me there. Take a look at an AC company, right? So there's so many areas of AC you could go into. You could go into commercial, you know, air conditioners on the roof. Um, just a number of different areas, and you got to look at all those possible areas and who your market could be. Maybe you're struggling right now as a business and you need additional business. And by sitting down and brainstorming it, you can come up with all these other areas and go, wow, let's explore that. Let's do that. And maybe some of them to market to are free. I like free. And so, in my guerrilla marketing approach in life and in my company, I like to do a lot of free stuff. Talking to people one on one, that's free. Giving out cards, that's free, other than the cards you've initially invest. So I like to do a lot of that. So, so like again, if I go back to my company, I have probably, let's just go with three categories. And one of them is the education of people in kitchen design and sales, and that's both nationwide and worldwide. The other one is kitchen design, and that's more of a nationwide thing and also a local thing because I'll do just designs for people, even locally. And then the other one is cabinets, and that's more of a Arizona thing and locally that I can do that. Though I can do nationwide if they're in an area where I ship to, and a lot of places are. So anyway, I won't turn any opportunity down nor trying to do it. Um, the other thing for me is closets as well. I've done some closets, but I've really not gotten into it. I don't know enough about it. I know how to design in them, but I don't really have a good wholesale closet company to deal with. So I'm looking at that down the road. Don't feel like I'm missing a lot of opportunity there, nor money, but nor profit or things like that. But I do feel it's something that I can add to my repertoire, so to speak, things that I offer. Okay, then let's look at so we're brainstorming as to who our clients are and what categories of helping people we serve. And maybe you've come up with four, maybe initially you come up with 20 categories that are just off the wall. Then you narrow it down in the brainstorming process and say, okay, we don't like this one. We don't like this one really. Yeah, it was a cool idea, but it's not going to work. Boom, boom, boom. And then you're down to like four, right? And maybe you stop at four. Maybe four is where you want to dwell. Maybe you had 30 and now you have eight ideas. But then you narrow that down to just a couple, right? That would be feasible and that would work for you. So the idea in brainstorming is starting with a lot, narrowing that down and narrowing that down again. And I like brainstorming because you can use that to solve anything in your life, really. Um, and it does help you to look at things and, objectively and kind of analyze them. So then let's brainstorm as to how we're going to market our company. So my idea again is starting out with a lot, bringing it down, bring it down, bring it down. So say we come up with in the end that we come up with three ideas that we are going to hit hardcore. So the three ideas, what these three ideas are going to become a habit with us. And they say you got to do anything for 30 days to become a habit. Therefore, what we're looking at doing is the key word is persistence and faithfulness in these areas. So you want to be faithful and you want to be persistent. You ever heard the term like 90% of a job is just showing up? So like if you show up every day, nowadays it's more than ever, it's harder to get people to show up for jobs, it seems. People don't want to work half the time, stuff like that. But the thing is that if you're a doer, and I'm a doer, man, I do stuff. I work a lot with my own business. I get excited about it. I get passionate about it. Then you know what? You got to add these three. Just say you decide on three areas. Say, I'm going to market locally with business cards on all the bulletin board walls, push pins, like at the tractor supply stores or things like that. I'm going to market locally in all the restaurants with my business cards in their little tray they have for people. I'm going to market locally in on Google, right? I'm going to try and get top ratings with the ratings on Google that people give me. I'm going to try to concentrate more on getting reviews. And then what you got to do is say to yourself, okay, so say you come up with these. I'm going to also go on Facebook and run ads on the community pages. Say you come up with just three of them, and there could be more. There could probably, you probably ought to have three. You probably ought to have like a local idea of talking to people, giving cards out, putting them on the bulletin boards, along with Facebook, Google, and more of an aggressive approach in your emailing people, contacting people on the phone, and things like this. That's my suggestion anyway. So say you decide to do these and you break these down into categories and you say, okay, John, you're our salesperson. You're going to talk to every waitress and waiter. And you go to a restaurant, give your card out. Everybody in the company, have everybody in the company do it. Have yourself do it if you're just like a small company. But anyway, talking to people is huge because that personal contact is extremely important. So not, you know, people will remember you, you know, if you take an interest in their life and have personal contact with them. you know, and let it not all be about yourself. So, I met this girl walking down the street. She seemed like she's homeless, and I said, "Hi, I'm Dave. How are you?" And I told her about our ministry. We have a ministry, we're a church, and we feed the homeless there. And I invited her, and she thanked me so much for taking an interest in her life. And so when we take an interest in other people, I'll give you another example. When I used to sell over the phone, I dealt with companies like Snap-on Tools, a number of large companies, Anderson Windows and things like that, and the IT department. And I always took a personal interest. I'd be like, if it was a woman, I'd say, "How are your kids?" If she had a family. Because women love to talk about their kids, and dads do too. But and then if it was a guy and he was a golfer or fisherman, I'd say, "You going out fishing this weekend?" And you're like, "No, whatever came up." But the thing is, take an interest in people's lives, show them that you care, and then at the same time, you can say, "Oh, by the way, I own a kitchen company, David's Kitchen Design. I'm David. And, if you know of anybody that is looking for a kitchen, I give out referral fees too. Sometimes on a $10,000 a kitchen, it could be $500, depending on where I'm at on it. But um, anyway, and then they'll be like, "Oh, wow, okay, cool. Yeah, no, in fact, I know, my mom's looking for a kitchen or my dad or whatever." Um, so it brings about conversation, and you've dug into a person's life and gotten to know them, and by that they respond with great things. They respond by being very cooperative and helpful to you. And the other thing is name recognition everywhere. The key is to get name recognition everywhere. And so anyway, that's some of the things that I do um, in my brainstorming. You come up with like 3 or 4 ways you're going to market your company. Come up with your target market by starting out here, coming down to fewer. And thank you for listening to me. Have a great day. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. David's Kitchen Design in Prescott, Arizona. Um, you can call me at 480-620-4284. Reach out at any time. Sometimes it's best to text ahead of time and we could set up a time to talk. My website is www.davidskitchendesign.com.